Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here today and to be with you here today. Nice to see some of those who have been in retreat for a little over a week. Discipleship Renewal Program. It's great to see you, and thank you for making it today on your last day and sharing your energy and bliss with us. So, okay. I'm going to read from Whispers from Eternity. And this is the salutation to the great preceptor. Bearing the bliss of Brahma, happiness supreme, wearing the image of wisdom, beyond the dispute of inequalities, free as the limitless sky, knower of all there is to be known, thou perennial, taintless one, witness of all happenings, beyond all conception's boundaries, uncolored by good, bad, and active qualities, my ever awake preceptor, I bow to thee. So it's a beautiful topic today, and I thought I would start with the question that Swami Kriyananda posed as a young man: what is God? Like everyone, ultimately, at some point, we ask this question. And he was walking alone one evening, and his leaning is toward the intellect, and he was moving through all manner of thoughts and reasoning, and finally a light shone, and he realized for himself that God is conscious and that God is consciousness. And this was a turning point in his life. He inwardly committed himself to seeking God. Indeed, I must seek God, he said to himself, and so must all. And whether we seek God in the personal or the impersonal, for most of us it's more personal, but both of these paths are vibrant to the one who resonates with them. But whether formless or with form, none of that really matters. They're not separate. They are part of the same one reality. And as Krishna said in the readings that Ananta read for us just now, we're in these physical bodies. We can't just think broadly without form, most of us. And if we can, and if we do, and if we're able, it's not something that really can hold our attention until we're more of that expression, until we feel that resonance with that expression. We have to start in these bodies. It's our very nature to do so. It's not and need not be a limitation, but rather it's the vehicle through which we work by degrees to embrace a larger reality. Yogananda said to a disciple, how can the little cup hold the whole ocean? And so here we are, bound by these bodies, identified with these bodies and everything related to them and everything material. It's very hard to conceptualize, what to speak of experience, these subtler realities. Yogananda, as a little boy, of course, you'll recall from autobiography, most of you will have read it, but his mother was given prophecy about at his birth, time of his birth, about his future and what he would bring and give to this world. And trying to support that from a very young age, she carved him a little statue of Kali, an image of the Divine Mother, well known to those who reside in India or have read Indian scripture. And apparently she was quite an artist in her own right, really at the top of her game as far as creating something like this. And she created this smaller statue of Mother Kali and gave it to Yogananda, and it was very dear to him, priceless to him. He worshipped before that image daily until his mother passed and left her body. He was very young at that time. It was devastating to him, naturally so. He was forlorn, he felt abandoned. He just despaired very openly and stopped meditating in front of this statue, but meditating nonetheless. And then at a certain point, as he prayed, he received a vision of the cosmic mother. And she told him that the form of his mother, the reality of his mother, the being of his mother was now incorporated in this divine form of the cosmic mother, and that wouldn't have been possible in the same way with her in the body. Yogananda wrote a poem later, Two Black Eyes, in which he addressed this transition for him from the form to the formless. And I encourage you to read it sometime. It's in Whispers from Eternity. It's in Songs of the Soul. Swami Kriyananda wrote a song, Dark Eyes, inspired by this poem and this occurrence. Very, very beautiful. And so this was Yogananda's experience. Do you know that in India, there's countless, there's over 1,000 names for God. And most people just balk at this as some kind of pagan absorption, misdirected. But in fact, it's the attempt to try to qualify the infinite. I mean, how can you really describe that? Could I really say in a word? Could Master say in a word what the infinite is? It's impossible to reduce to the human language. And so they have all of these deities, all of these forms, all of these names for God that just touch on a singular aspect of the infinite. And what one is drawn to, what one wants to appreciate in that moment is embodied in form in that particular deity. And but ultimately, the divine reality is beyond that. And in celebrations in India, not always, but oftentimes, this is what I've been told, and I don't know if I've ever witnessed that in my encounters in India, but oftentimes at the end of a celebration, a festival, they will take the deity that they have created out of, paper, cardboard, wood, whatever, and used as a focal point for the ceremony, and they'll take it down to the Ganga and just toss it in a celebratory way. But the idea being that you can't really capture God in form. And so they launch it, back to its home in the infinite. I mean, what a beautiful concept. What a beautiful celebration, because in these bodies and on this plane, we can't help ourselves. We kind of keep, getting a smaller and smaller perspective sometimes. And reminders like this, wake us up. And God is big. God is every reality. God is all concepts. God is all experiences and feelings and so on. In the Mahabharata, specifically the Bhagavad Gita, those of you who are acquainted with it, there is a great war, and it's the focal point on which the whole Bhagavad Gita is delivered. And Krishna, God incarnate at that time, tries his best to avert this, disaster, and has done everything that, he can do without really taking away the opportunity of individual karma and destiny. But he's got one last thing he's going to do. And so he goes to meet with Duryodhana, who represents the side of darkness and limitation. On the other side is Arjuna, the Pandavas, and the light. And he goes to meet with Duryodhana. And Duryodhana knows by now that Arjuna chose Krishna to drive his chariot and lead him to victory in the war. So just to ensure that Arjuna will not succeed, Duryodhana has this amazing idea. He's going to tie up Krishna. As if that could really work. And Krishna, hearing this news, laughs loud and long. But then Krishna, in this last effort, reveals his infinite form. And it's referred to as the Vishwarupa. That certainly is a word that sounds fantastic. But he's going to totally reveal his infinite form, which the average person does not see. They see Krishna, to be sure, but he's in this human body, and he's probably just like the rest of us, really, right? So Krishna does this, and Duryodhana is not in the least impressed. He even calls it a trick, a conjurer's trick. And he just throws Krishna off, sends out his armies, pursuing, the choice of battle. Well, out there on the battlefield, Arjuna is talking to Krishna and vice versa, and that's the whole of the Gita there, that dialogue between the two of them. But Arjuna says, will you show me your infinite form? And Krishna responds and does just that. And Arjuna is just blown away. He wanted that vision, that experience, but he had no idea what was coming. And afterwards, Arjuna wrote this beautiful account of this divine experience. And very interestingly, it's in the Gita, in the essence of the Gita, beautifully written. Swamiji said that he took the liberty of just altering it a little bit from Yogananda's original to give it the poetic beauty that such an experience would inspire. I mean, just, so awesome, so tremendous, so beyond description. And so it's just this beautiful poetic flow. It's very much like Yogananda's Samadhi. I mean, not the same poem, Samadhi, but the description of cosmic consciousness. And isn't that interesting? Because Yogananda tells us that he was Arjuna in that incarnation. So both of them wrote this account that we have to read and try to tune into. And then Arjuna, because so overwhelmed, he even describes the image of Krishna as the infinite in his cosmic form as terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And so he says, please forgive me, Krishna, please forgive me. But would you, again, take your form as my friend, as my guide, as my teacher? I can't relate to this. And so Krishna resumes again that familiar form. And I wanted to just read this little section from the Gita because it's so beautiful. Arjuna said, O granter of all boons, Krishna, viewing you once again in the human form I love, my mind is pacified, and I feel I am once more myself. The blessed Lord said, very difficult is it to behold, as you have done, the vision of the divine universe. Even the gods yearn to see it. Its revelation, however, is not attained by penances or by faithfulness to Scripture or by charities or by formal worship, O scorcher of foes, Arjuna. Only by single-hearted devotion, achieved through deep yoga practice, is it possible to behold me and to become one with me, as you have done in my cosmic form. He who serves me alone, who makes me his only goal, who lovingly surrenders every thought of I to me, who releases all attachment to aught else, and who, beholding me in all, bears no ill will toward anyone, he, O Arjuna, enters my vast being. So very beautiful. Yogananda tells us when we sit to meditate to try to feel that we are sitting at the very center of a vast, infinite space, or at the very heart of the Om vibration, and to try to step into that. Just take a few minutes to even think that thought and feel yourself there before you begin to meditate. It's an important aspect of meditation that we do as best as we can to just step a little out or up from body identification. It'll aid our meditation. He says as well to read or learn, in any case frequent, perhaps memorize the poem Samadhi. He begins that poem, vanish the veils of light and shade, and he ends it, a tiny bubble of laughter. I am become the sea of mirth itself. And between that beginning line and that closing line is just, again, his poetic description of this vast, vast experience of the divine without limitation, beyond form. When we sit to meditate, when we practice the technique of Hong Sa, what happens? We feel peace. And that experience is without form. We can attach it to a form. We can feel peace through one of the saints, one of the masters, but we experience peace. And that is an experience beyond the form. When we practice the Om technique, we experience or chant mentally the sound of Om. And we take on that aspect of God, beyond form, as cosmic sound. When we practice Kriya, our experience is one of increasing joy. Again, another divine aspect, quite beyond the form. So even without trying to think in a formless way, our very practices are a doorway onto the infinite beyond the form. And that's very important to remember. It's something that happens very, very naturally for us, for the meditator. When St. Francis received the stigmata, it was preceded by a brilliant light. When St. Bernadette saw Mary appear before her, it was preceded by a wind. And when Yogananda, as a little boy, sat on his bed, a brilliant flash of light lit up the room. And first he saw the Himalayan yogis, and then they dissolved into the light, and then the light became bigger. Who are you? He asked. I am Ishwara, light. So we see that form comes from the formless. And by our very practices and the lives we live, trying to anchor them in the divine, we return to that home in the formless. And whether we worship God with form, whether we worship God as formless, it doesn't really matter. What is happening either way is that through that process, through that love of the heart, communing with the divine, the ego is being dissolved. And we forget that we ever thought we were separate. We forget that we think sometimes we are separate. And we forget that we could have ever imagined we would ever be separate, because we have always been a part of that divine reality.
So the song that we'd like to share this morning to start with is, of course, it's by Swami Kriyananda, but it's one that you don't hear very often. It's a children's song titled God is Our Father, Mother, Friend.
God is our Father, Mother, Friend. God is within our laughter.
God is our Father, Mother, Friend. God is within our laughter. God is our Father, Mother, Friend. God is within our loving.
God is our Father, Mother, Friend. God is within our loving. God is our Father, Mother, Friend. God is within all nature.
God is our Father, Mother, Friend. God is within all nature. God is our Father, Mother, Friend.
God is beyond all darkness. God is our Father, Mother, Friend.
God is beyond all darkness.
God is our Father, Mother, Friend.
God is beyond all dreaming. God is our Father, Mother, Friend.
God is beyond all dreaming. God is our Father, Mother, Friend. God is within our laughter. God is our Father, Mother, Friend.
God is within our laughter.
Our loving all nature. This song is by Swami Kriyananda. It's called The Song of the Nightingale. The nightingale represents the Guru, who is always guiding us inwardly and calling us to turn toward God. Nightingale, nightingale, sing of joy through the night. Teach my heart to impart everywhere your delight. Sing of moon rays on the rain, sing that love's not in vain. Every grief, every wrong has its ending in song. Nightingale, nightingale, sing of joy through the night. Teach all men how to spin clouds of gloom into light. Without silence, what is song? Without night, where is dawn? Were it not for men's woes, who would smile at a rose? Nightingale, nightingale, sing of joy through the night. Let each tone silence groan, earth and heaven unite. Morning laughter, evening tears, snow and blossoms, all fade. Joy must sing in the night to face change unafraid. Nightingale, nightingale,
Thank you to all of our donors for making it possible to share these videos and keep this channel ad-free. If you feel inspired to donate, visit ananda.org/give.